Before I start, I want to make sure it's clear what I'm talking about. This video is not an attack on Muslims. I've known many fantastic Muslims who have integrated into Western society and appreciate our values. So, if you're a Muslim who believes in and wants to keep the values of Western society, and you're tolerant of every religion, you're absolutely great. And this video isn't about you. What I'm talking about is Islamism, or fundamentalist Muslims who want to spread strict theocratic Islamic law. One wouldn't expect a country as historically powerful and steeped in Western culture as Great Britain to be suffering from a wave of Islamism. But the facts say otherwise. And they surprised even me. It's all about demographics. You see, currently 3.5 million people practice Islam in the UK, about 5.5% of the country's population. Sounds benign, right? Well, just 15 years ago, the Muslim population was just 1.4 million, meaning it grew 150%. Already, Muhammad has become the most popular boy's name in London, and many experts say that Islam could be the dominant religion in the UK in 10 to 15 years. That's massive growth, which wouldn't be a problem if there weren't a group of radical imams and leaders encouraging young Muslims to embrace fundamentalism.
If you dare touch the hair on the beard of a Muslim man in Tower Hamlets, you will have to fight your way through 10,000 dead bodies first.
Over 40% of Muslims would like to see some sort of Sharia law become the dominant law in Britain. Some here may not know what Sharia law is exactly. While in Arabic, Sharia translates to the law of the land, Sharia law is an Islamic fundamentalist law pushed by wealthy Islamic nations like Saudi Arabia and Qatar that follows the teachings of the Quran and the Hadith to decide on how to rule. This frightens Westerners since some of its laws subjugate women, imprison or execute gays, and calls for the subjugation, conversion, or killing of non-believers.
Or they will have the choice, either convert to Islam, or if you don't want to be killed, then you will be killed.
And they believe that eventually Sharia law will spread across the world by way of a caliphate, as told in the Quran.
Soon, the Sharia is going to be all over the whole world.
One day when the Sharia comes, you'll see this black flag everywhere.
That's scary to many, and unfortunately, once you allow people who wish to spread Sharia law into your country, Sharia law will begin to be practiced in your country, whether you want it to or not. The UK now has 84 Sharia courts and counting that bypass British law and make their own rulings. They are run by clerics who are, according to a Muslim scholar, more backward than parts of Pakistan. And they make rulings as horrifying as allowing a man to kill another's kids for besmirching his honor. In fact, the UK faces a wave of honor violence among the Islamic population. 12 to 15 Muslims are killed a year to honor violence, while a hotline set up specifically for honor violence gets 750 calls per month. Female genital mutilation has also become prominent in England, with some 283,000 cases of it occurring there. While these only occur for fellow Muslims in mainly Muslim neighborhoods, Islamism is spilling out into the UK in general, and goes well beyond terrorism. I mean, sure, there are over 3,000 terrorists known in the UK, with only 152 behind bars, and sure, 800 men in Britain went to fight for ISIS, with 400 returning home, and the Muslim community calling for them to just integrate back into society. And sure, this will result in many terror plots, many foiled, but some succeeding in killing innocent people. But the effects are much greater than that. Gangs of men walk the streets of Muslim-majority neighborhoods in London and enforce Sharia rules to those who are near them, harassing and attacking people for Sharia crimes such as drinking and not being clothed enough. London also faces a horrifying new crime wave. Acid attacks. In the past 5 years, there have been 1,500 acid attacks. And that's not all the attacks that have increased. Knife attacks have increased 24% in the past year and are at a 5-year high. In one of the strictest gun countries in the world, gun crime has increased by over 65% in a 2-year span. Overall murder has increased in England by 22% in 2016, which had increased by 21% over the prior 5 years. The most startling statistical increase was rape in England, which from 2005 to 2015 increased by 172%. And then went up another 12% in 2016. Among this was the more than 100% increase in child rape that occurred in the last 4 years. There was also Muslim rape gangs that were left unchecked by police for fear of being racist in Rotterdam in 2014 and Telford in 2016, which led to over 2,000 sex crimes. Drug-based deaths have more than doubled in the past 5 years due to the successful opioid trade from Afghanistan and Pakistan to Pakistani, Turkish, and Kurdish gangs. Much of the drug money finances terrorists inside countries, while the drugs serve as a sort of silent jihad against British youth. Arresting and imprisoning the criminals appears to not help matters, as even though Muslims overrepresent prisons by quadruple their demographics, UK prisons have become radical Islamic training camps where non-Muslims are converted and radicalized. Terrorists are frequently allowed to stay in the UK after being charged with terrorism. Dozens of Islamic schools have been set up to radicalize Muslim children. Many British schools aren't safe either, as in 2014 it was revealed that schools were being secretly Islamized, called the Trojan Horse Operation. The operation was supposedly shut down, but instead it just became underground and more subversive, with schools revealing to be Islamized in 2016 and 2017. Muslim unemployment is over double the British average, which, though it sounds like discrimination, is actually often on purpose, as Islamist leaders tell others to go on welfare so as to take money from the infidels, as it says in the Quran. 100,000 British citizens had been converted to hardline Islamic sects from 2001 to 2010 alone. Segregated public places such as schools and pools are being reported, blocking men and women completely. Even dogs are being affected, as Muslim hatred of dogs has forced businesses to stop printing ads with dogs in them, and those with dogs have been denied service by Muslims. So that's a lot of changes in British life. But what does it mean for the UK? Look, I don't honestly believe that the country will collapse or become part of an Islamic caliphate, but there was no doubt going to be problems for the country in the future. Your attempts this far have been way too little too late. Much of the problem stems from the government and many of the people's inability to face the fact that a problem is growing, for fear of being labeled racist or Islamophobic. In Britain, it can actually lead to you being charged with a crime, as freedom of speech isn't guaranteed. Well, the government has other reasons for keeping quiet. Turns out they need the high birth rates of Muslims to keep up their rapidly fracturing socialist policies and systems. But they never predicted that extremism would turn their plan against them. Your government believed they could prevent Islamism from spreading without addressing the problem. They didn't learn from Iran, Afghanistan, or Lebanon, nor did they learn from Iraq, Libya, Syria, Nigeria, Somalia, Egypt, or Turkey. Now, it's at your doorstep. Isn't it time to finally address the problem? The longer they wait to admit there's a problem, though, the harder it will be to solve it. It already will involve so many changes. I believe the government has to ensure that Muslim immigrants are going to integrate into society. They need to prevent the establishment of large Muslim enclaves. Terrorists and criminals need to be deported. Integration must be enforced. Sharia courts, as well as Salafi and Wahhabi mosques, need to be shut down, and schools need to be teaching British and Western values. Otherwise, there will still be hotbeds of extremism. They also need to support and encourage true moderates to speak up and lead the faith. Only then can real reformation of fundamentalist beliefs occur. Again, I don't believe all Muslims are the problem. I think many of them are moderate and truly want to integrate into the West. But it only takes a loud minority of extremists to keep them quiet. This means that they also have to prevent the possibility of hard backlash from the far right amongst the British people. But I only believe that will grow if the problem continues to grow. So what does this mean for America? I mean, we don't face the problem that Britain has, largely through a successful process of integration and the willingness to westernize among our Muslim population. That's not to say we don't have imminent problems with homegrown terrorists, or problems with Islamism in certain areas. But I want the contrast between us and the UK to show how the problem clearly isn't Muslims in general, but the growing popularity of fundamentalist Islamism. Going forward, our closest ally Britain should serve as a warning of how unchecked Islamism can create problems for everyone. And we should work to ensure that new Muslim immigrants continue to integrate, embrace our ideals, and become successful and invaluable American citizens like immigrants of the past 240 years have. As for Britain, there will be immense struggles in preventing the spreading of radicalism for years to come. But it'll be innumerably better to swallow your pride and face it now than have to face it when they represent a large part of your country. You can prevent a violent and turbulent future, but only if you admit that there's a problem and work to return to the values that made Britain one of the centers of Western civilization. I'm Ben Sano, for The Elephant in the Room. I hope you enjoyed this video, and please like and subscribe if you liked it.